I took in my cousin when she had nowhere else to go. She was quiet at first, then she started hosting parties, changing locks, and telling my neighbors I was her tenant. One day, she filed a restraining order. "This is my house now," she told the officer. I showed him the deed, but her forged one was already in the county records. That's when I called the one person who could prove. "My name's Derek. I'm 42. I live in Springfield, Missouri. Born and raised. I work in HVAC. Heating and air systems. Been doing it over 15 years. I don't make crazy money, but I do alright. Bought my house in 2012, after my divorce. It needed a lot of work, but I liked it. It was mine. That house became my safe place. Every weekend I worked on it. Fixed up the porch, put in a new water heater, patched drywall, added insulation in the attic. I was proud of it. Nobody helped me with that house. Not a single person. I bought it, fixed it, and kept it going through every hard year since. Then came Melissa. She's my cousin. Grew up in Tulsa. I hadn't seen her since a family funeral maybe 4 or 5 years back. We were never close. She was always strange. Not in a loud way. She was one of those people who always watches everything but says very little. I never knew what she was really thinking. One night I was just getting off work. Had a long job on a busted AC unit in a church basement. I was dead tired. I get this call from a random number, and it's Melissa. First thing she says is, "I'm sorry to bother you, I didn't know who else to call." She said she was living in her car. Said she had a bad breakup and her ex-boyfriend kicked her out. Claimed she had no money, no job, and nowhere to go. I asked why she couldn't stay with her mom or dad. She said they'd both cut her off, that she'd burned too many bridges. That should have been a red flag. But I remembered how my own divorce left me sleeping on a buddy's couch for 6 months. I knew what rock bottom felt like. So I told her she could stay in my guest room. I made it real clear, just for a few weeks, until she got on her feet. She showed up the next afternoon with 2 garbage bags full of clothes, an old purse, and a tiny dog named Pixie. Little white mutt, always shaking like it was cold even when it was 80 degrees out. She looked rough. Skinny, pale, red eyes. Said she hadn't slept right in days. At first, she was quiet. Real quiet. She kept the room clean. Said thank you every time I cooked. She didn't touch my stuff. She offered to walk Pixie outside so it wouldn't bother me. I actually thought, this is going to work out fine. I asked if she needed help getting a job. She said no, she was already applying. 2 weeks went by. Then things changed. I came home from work one Thursday night, long shift again. And there were 4 people in my living room. People I'd never seen in my life. One guy had his boots on my coffee table. 2 girls were on my couch eating chips out of the bag. Music was playing off someone's phone. Melissa was in the kitchen pouring shots of cheap vodka. I just stood there, like what the hell? She saw me and said, "Hey! Come join us!" I didn't join. I pulled her aside and said this wasn't okay. She apologized, kinda, and said they'd be gone in an hour. They stayed until almost midnight. That was just the start. She started having friends over 3-4 nights a week. Different people each time. Some of them looked sketchy. One guy left the bathroom door open while he pissed. One girl tried to pet my dog like it was a cat. They left bottles everywhere. My kitchen smelled like weed even though I told her I didn't want that stuff in my house. I confronted her again. Told her no more parties. She rolled her eyes. "It's not a party, Derek. It's just a few people hanging out." I reminded her this was my house. She didn't argue. She just nodded like she heard me. But I could see it in her eyes, she wasn't listening. Then came the locks. I came home one day and my key didn't work. I thought maybe I was just tired and using the wrong key. But no. She changed the locks. I knocked for 20 minutes. When she finally opened the door, she looked bored. I had to change them. The old ones were sticking. I told her she should have told me. She said she meant to. Then she handed me a new key like it was no big deal. Around that same time, my neighbor Cindy waved me down in the driveway. She said you were just renting a room from her. Cindy said, "That you're her tenant." I asked who told her that. She said Melissa. I laughed at first, thinking maybe Cindy just misunderstood. Then I talked to another neighbor. And another. Melissa was telling the whole block that I was her tenant. I sat her down that night, and told her she had 14 days to move out. I wrote it out. Gave it to her in writing. No yelling, no cussing. Just facts. She didn't say much. Just read the paper, looked at me and said, "Fine." The next week, I came home and there was a police car in front of my house. A deputy walked up to me and asked for my name. I told him. He handed me a restraining order. Melissa filed it. Said I had threatened her. Said I was becoming dangerous. She claimed I had cornered her in the kitchen and yelled in her face. I told the deputy that wasn't true. I told him she was my cousin and that I owned the house. He said, according to this, she's the property owner. Her name's on the deed. It was filed last week. I said, that's not possible. That house is mine. I paid it off last year. He pulled up the county records. Sure enough, Melissa's name was listed as the current owner. I almost threw up. The paperwork looked real. The signature on it looked like mine, because it was. She must have scanned and printed my signature from the files in my cabinet. I had copies of everything in there. I trusted her not to go through it. The deputy told me I had to leave the property immediately. I asked what would happen to my stuff. He said that was between me and the courts. But as of that moment, I wasn't allowed to go inside. I slept in my truck that night in the Walmart parking lot. I didn't have anyone I could stay with. My closest friend lived 2 hours away, and I didn't want to tell him yet. I was too embarrassed. I called the county clerk's office the next morning. They said the deed looked clean. They said if I wanted to dispute it, I had to file a claim and get legal help. I had no idea where to start. I didn't know what kind of lawyer handles something like this. I felt like a fool. And I was pissed. That's when I remembered Bobby. He's my neighbor across the street. Retired real estate guy. Older, but sharp as hell. He and I put in a security system together a few years back, just for peace of mind. He's the one who helped set up the camera over the front door and another one in the living room, the hidden one. I called him and told him everything. He said, come over. Let's pull the footage. We logged into the cloud account. I'd forgotten I even had it set to upload. Bobby had helped me link it to an old Gmail I'd barely used. What we found made my stomach twist. Melissa, up at 2 a.m, going through my filing cabinet. Melissa, holding up my old deed, comparing signatures on her laptop screen. Melissa, printing out a new document and practicing a signature. And then, Melissa meeting a notary at the front door. The woman stayed for maybe 10 minutes. Walked out with a manila envelope in her hand. The footage had timestamps. Clear audio. Everything. I knew I had something now. I took the footage and drove straight to Bobby's friend. A lawyer named Dean Walters. Dean had been working real estate cases for over 20 years. The guy looked like he hadn't smiled since 1998, but he knew his stuff. He watched the footage without saying a word. Then he looked at me and said, she's good. This is serious. But we can work with this. He explained that forged deeds happen more often than people think. All it takes is the right forms, a notary who doesn't do their due diligence, and a county clerk who doesn't check too close. Once it's filed, the system treats it as real, until someone proves otherwise. We started building a case. Dean filed a formal complaint with the county and requested an emergency injunction to freeze any sale or transfer of the house. We also filed a lawsuit to reclaim title and damages. But Melissa didn't sit back. She filed a harassment claim against me. Said I was stalking her, even though I hadn't set foot on the property since the restraining order. She used the footage I had collected and claimed I was spying on her. She even showed up at Bobby's house one morning, screaming at him from the sidewalk. You're a damn liar! You're helping him break the law! Bobby recorded it all on his phone. Called the police. They warned her to stay off his property. Then I got word that Melissa was trying to rent out my house. I found the ad online. She listed it as a fully renovated 3-bedroom with quiet charm, asking $1,500 a month. She even posted pictures of my bedroom, with my bed and furniture still in it. My diploma was hanging on the wall in the background. I called the number listed as a fake management company. It was her voice on the voicemail. I gave that recording to Dean. He added fraud and illegal rental activity to our case. And just when I thought it couldn't get more insane, a man showed up at the courthouse during one of our hearings. Said his name was Adam, and that he'd paid Melissa a deposit, $1,000 in cash, to move in next week. He had no idea she didn't own the house. Dean asked him to testify. He agreed. The judge finally put a temporary block on the property. No one could rent, sell, or change anything until the case was sorted. Then came the bombshell. Dean's assistant dug into Melissa's past. She'd done this before. Not the exact same scheme, but close. Back in Tulsa, she'd moved in with a woman she met through a church group. Said she had no family, no money. Stayed with her 6 months. Then drained her bank account using stolen checks. The woman never pressed charges, but there was a police report. We got a copy. We also found out that Melissa had legally changed her last name twice in 10 years. Each time after she left a different state. Dean smiled for the first time when he read that. We're going to bury her, he said. But Melissa didn't slow down. She found a new way to mess with me. She broke into my truck. I always keep my glove box locked, and it looked like she used a tool to pop it open. She didn't steal anything big, just some papers. Old insurance cards, car maintenance records, and a flash drive I forgot was in there. I didn't even notice it was gone until a week later, when the insurance company called me. Did you mean to cancel your policy? What? Someone claiming to be you submitted a cancellation form. With your signature. Melissa had copied my signature and sent in the form. I almost lost my coverage. If I'd gotten into a wreck that week, I'd have been screwed. I reported it to the police. They added it to the fraud investigation. By now, my nerves were shot. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I felt like I was losing my mind. All because I let someone stay in my house for a few weeks out of kindness. I thought maybe my job would be a break from it all, but even that started getting shaky. My boss pulled me aside and said someone called and left a message claiming I was on drugs and shouldn't be working with HVAC systems. He didn't believe it. Luckily, he knows me, but it shook me up. Melissa was trying to ruin everything. I told Dean I didn't care about the money anymore. I just wanted her out of my life. He said, "We're close. Don't back out now. She's about to make a mistake." And she did. Melissa filed a second deed. This time trying to transfer the house into the name of a fake company called Midwest Haven Properties LLC. Dean caught it the day it hit the county record. He went straight to the judge. That move crossed the line from civil to criminal. She was no longer just pretending to own the house, she was laundering it through a shell company. The judge froze everything again, and the county finally opened an official fraud investigation. The best part? The signature on the new deed didn't match the last one. She'd gotten sloppy. Once the judge flagged the fake company transfer, things finally started to turn around, but not in the clean, satisfying way I expected. Melissa didn't just back off. She doubled down. She filed for bankruptcy using that same fake LLC, listing my house as one of the company's assets. Dean almost fell out of his chair when he saw the paperwork. "This is federal now," he said. "Bankruptcy fraud. She's cooked." But that didn't stop the court system from doing what it always does, moving slow as hell. Meanwhile, she was still living in my house, throwing parties, and now, she wasn't even trying to be quiet about it. One night Bobby called me. "There's a damn DJ on your porch. She's throwing some kind of rave." It was true. We found a post on Facebook. "House party at Midwest Haven, $5 entry. Free shots for girls." That's when I called the cops again. This time, I got lucky. The responding officer was someone who used to do maintenance on HVAC units with me years ago. Name was Travis. He pulled me aside and said, "Look, I'm not supposed to get involved in civil matters. But this is insane. I'll take a look at what you've got." I handed him a copy of the original deed, video footage, and the bankruptcy filing. He didn't say anything for a while. Just stared at the documents. Then he said, "I'll write her up for a noise complaint and start the paper trail. You just need one good break." A week later I got it. The county clerk's office, the same one that accepted her forged deed, finally finished their internal investigation. Turns out, one of their notary contractors had been working with Melissa under the table. They'd notarized 2 of her fake deeds without any in-person ID check. Now the county was facing liability too. And they wanted it gone, fast. Suddenly, calls started coming in. First from the clerk's office. Then from the judge's clerk. Then from Melissa's new public defender, because yep, she finally got charged. But here's the twist. She countersued me. She claimed that I forged the footage. That Bobby and I had deep-faked her into doing all this as revenge for some old family issue. It was laughable, but she wasn't doing it to win. She was doing it to stall. The case dragged on for another 2 months. In that time, I lost weight. Started sleeping in my truck again. Got paranoid about everything. I was afraid to even go near the house, afraid she'd claim I violated the restraining order. Then another twist dropped. Dean called me one morning, sounding wired. "We just got a call from Tulsa PD. Her ex-boyfriend wants to testify." I didn't even know the guy's name. Turns out, his name was Ryan. He said she'd pulled the same kind of thing with him. Back in Tulsa, she had convinced his landlord she was the tenant, then tried to evict him by filing a fake lease agreement. Same playbook, just less polished. Ryan emailed us copies of the old complaint he filed and screenshots of Melissa texting him about how easy it is to own stuff if people are dumb. Dean added it to our evidence pile. That, plus the forged bankruptcy documents, the fake company registration, and the Facebook party posts, painted a picture of someone running a full-blown scam operation. But Melissa wasn't done screwing with me. About a month before our next court date, I went to my truck and found the tires slashed. All 4 of them. No note. No fingerprints. Just a dead truck and a boot print in the dirt. But Bobby caught it on camera. Guess who was on the footage? Melissa's friend, the same guy I'd seen with his boots on my coffee table that first week she moved in. Dean subpoenaed him. But here's where the twist gets really insane. While all this was going on, someone tried to sell my house. An out-of-state real estate investor contacted Dean asking if the house was still available. Apparently, Melissa had emailed a broker in St. Louis and told them the house was going up for quick sale under her LLC. She sent fake closing docs, including a title with her company's watermark. That almost got the FBI involved. We were now sitting on identity theft, forgery, illegal rental, fraudulent bankruptcy, property fraud, and possible interstate wire fraud. Melissa had no clue the storm that was about to hit her. But I still didn't have my house back. I still had nothing. And every time I saw that porch in Bobby's footage, lit up with strangers, music blasting, that damn dog barking in the yard, I felt sick. I didn't just want her gone anymore. I wanted her to feel everything she put me through. Everything came crashing down on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in Dean's office. We were prepping for court again. Melissa's side had filed yet another delay motion, this time saying she had medical complications and couldn't attend. We were both frustrated. That's when Dean's paralegal rushed in and handed him a letter. It was from the Missouri Attorney General's office. They were opening a formal criminal investigation into Melissa for real estate fraud, wire fraud, and identity theft. But it got better. Because of how she involved the notary and tried to sell to an out-of-state investor, it triggered federal charges. The FBI was now watching her. They showed up at the house 3 days later. Bobby called me. There's 3 black SUVs and a moving truck out front. She's in handcuffs. I drove there. I didn't go past the property line, just stood on the sidewalk across the street. I saw Melissa being walked out in cuffs. Hair messy, hoodie halfway zipped, face pale. I watched her lock eyes with me. And for the first time, she didn't smirk. She didn't roll her eyes. She looked scared. The FBI took everything. Her laptop. The printer. Boxes of files. Even Pixie. Animal control took the dog because it wasn't registered and hadn't been vaccinated in over a year. A neighbor walked up beside me. She said you were the one stealing from her. I shook my head. No. She stole everything. That night, I got the best sleep I'd had in months. It took another 60 days, but the court officially restored my name to the deed. Dean helped fast-track it after the federal charges were filed. We also won the civil case, over $110,000 in damages. Of course, Melissa didn't have that kind of money. But the judge ordered everything she owned liquidated. She had a car, a joint bank account with $6,800 in it, and some crypto in a Coinbase wallet. We got it all. I used the money to replace everything she ruined. New locks, new HVAC tools, new mattress. Even got myself a used Silverado to replace the old truck with the slashed tires. But I wasn't done. I worked with Dean to send every single detail of her fraud, the forged documents, fake company, bankruptcy scam, to every job listing she applied to over the past year. Every single one. Most of them responded, thanking me. A few had already hired her and had to let her go. Then I reached out to Ryan, her ex in Tulsa, and helped him reopen his case. With our evidence, he was able to prove she had used a fake lease to try and evict him. She's now facing charges in 2 states. Still not done. I sent a full copy of the case file to her mom, who hadn't spoken to her in years, and made sure she saw just how deep Melissa had sunk. Her mom didn't respond, but her sister did. Send me a message. I'm sorry you went through all this. She's been like this since high school. You were just the first one who got proof. I found out she had done smaller cons in 3 different states. Fake temp jobs. Roommate scams. Credit card fraud. She always moved before anyone could nail her. This time, she couldn't run. Final court sentencing came 5 months later. Melissa pled guilty to 2 counts of property fraud, 1 count of wire fraud, 1 count of filing a false deed, 1 count of impersonating a legal business, 1 count of filing a false police report, and obstruction of justice, she cried in court. Claimed she had mental health problems, trauma, and didn't know what she was doing. The judge wasn't buying it. He sentenced her to 9 years in federal prison, with no early parole. She's also banned from holding any legal business licenses or working in real estate ever again. She has to repay the money she stole, plus interest. That dog, Pixie, got adopted by a retired vet who lives 2 streets over from me. He named her Lucky. As for me, I rebuilt. I repainted the house. Got cameras installed on every corner. Upgraded everything inside, kitchen, flooring, the whole thing. I even built a fence with a gate code. Nobody gets in unless I let them. And that guest room? It's empty now. I leave it that way to remind myself, never again. I gave her kindness. I gave her a home. And she tried to bury me for it. But she didn't win. She's sitting in a cold cell right now, probably thinking of her next scam. I hope she stays there. And if she ever gets out, I hope she remembers this. I forgave her once. That was my mistake. There won't be a second time.